Well, in the fall of 2010, what started out as the disappearance of 4 people quickly turned to a horrific story of murder, abduction, and a killer with a bizarre obsession with leaves and trees.
We continue to follow breaking news this afternoon.
4 people, including Tina Herman, her children Cody and Sarah, and a family friend, Stephanie Sprang, mysteriously disappeared.
It did look like there was some sort of violence that occurred.
The blood evidence in the house revealed 3 separate violent attacks and showed the victims were dragged to the bathroom.
One man is in custody today accused of kidnapping Sarah Maynard.
We have located and rescued 13-year-old Sarah Maynard.
Sarah was found bound and gagged in the basement of Hoffman's home.
A SWAT team rescued the girl and arrested Hoffman. In the end, Hoffman does cooperate.
Well, deep in the woods behind me is where deputies found the 3 bodies. They were in trash bags placed inside a hollow tree. The discovery was so gruesome, even the sheriff was shocked.
My entire law enforcement career, I have never experienced something like this.
Well, today in a daytime exclusive, Sarah, now 15, is here to tell her story of survival and how she made it out of this horrifying ordeal alive.
My brother and I got home from school that day and noticed that things were weird. When I started to take my shoes off, I looked down and saw blood. When I started to go down the hallway, there was a guy who came out real fast. I got to the phone and dialed 911, but I didn't hit talk because I thought that if I called 911 that he'd kill me. He got out his knife and cut me on my finger. There was already blood on the knife that he had in his hand. I saw blood everywhere. There was blood on the walls, all over the floor. That is the moment when I began to think he killed my mom. He tied my hands and legs with a rope and then put me in the kitchen. At that time, I knew he was killing my brother in the bathroom because I heard the toilet flush and then I heard running water. He told me to sit up so he could blindfold me and gag me. He had put me in the back seat of my mom's friend's Jeep. There was a plastic bag that he had laid me over top of. Later, I found out that he had laid me on their dead bodies in the car. He then drove me to another house. He unblindfolded me and then he put me in the basement. I saw leaves everywhere. The leaves were all over the walls. He had told me he wanted to put leaves to make my bed comfortable. He gave me a bowl of cereal with rotten milk, and then he said if I was hungry, I had to eat a dead squirrel. I didn't eat anything for 4 days. Didn't sleep. I stayed awake worrying about where my family was.
I found out that my children were missing when I received a phone call that Tina didn't show up for work. Tina's boss went to her house and discovered that there was blood inside the house. I started fearing for the worst. I needed answers.
The day I was rescued, I clearly remember. I was down in the basement and I heard these guys come down the steps and they said, "We're not down here to hurt you." And then they picked me up and put me in the ambulance.
On Sunday, November the 14th, I received a phone call from a detective. The detective informed me that he had found my daughter alive. But when I asked the detective where my son was, he couldn't give me a direct answer.
With one child safely recovered, Sarah's father prayed for the same fate for his son. But sadly, Larry's worst nightmare had come true.
The day after Sarah was found, I went to Tina's home. While walking into the bathroom, and inside the bathtub, there was a ring about 6 inches off the base of the bathtub. It was a blood ring, and I just broke down into tears. 2 days after being caught, Matthew confessed to killing all 3 of them. The deal was they would take the death penalty off the table in cooperation with him giving the location of their bodies.
Matthew told the police that he had put the bodies in a tree.
Matthew Hoffman was infatuated with trees and leaves. Matthew requested that the tree where he had placed all their bodies at not be cut down. The prosecutor agreed to that, and the minute that the bodies were extracted, they cut the tree down. I learned later on from an autopsy that Cody was stabbed 10 times. He was decapitated from earlobe to earlobe.
I can't think about how they died. It is too much because that's not a way a human being should die.
Well, despite Sarah's courage and strength and ability to articulate the details of her kidnapping, I felt it was important that she did not see these graphic images ever again. So I've had Sarah and her father, Larry, sequestered backstage. They've not seen any of this. They're going to join us now. Here we go. Sarah, good to meet you. Good to meet you. Sit.
Thank you.
It's been 2 years. Tell me how you're doing with all of this, how you're doing mentally and emotionally in adjusting to not only what you went through personally, but to the loss of your family members here.
I'm doing good. I just try not to think about it every day, even though it's hard to move on, like not having a mom or a brother, but you still gotta be strong and just live past through it.
And how are you doing with all of this? I mean, it's just not natural for parents to bury their children.
It's the greatest loss of all. I mean, you know, as far as, your heart being completely broke, it's like the worst that you could ever imagine.
How did this come about? Why do you think you were targeted here? Why your family?
There were some officers that said that Matthew might have been infatuated with my daughter. He might have seen her somewhere or something, just like a predator.
Did he talk to you? Why do you think he kept you alive?
I think I just listened to everything he told me to do and just tried to stay positive, thinking that I would live through it, and just thinking about what had happened to them and just staying strong.
He took you out of the house and took you to his house, right? And there were all of these leaves all over the house. Why? Why did he say they were in there?
No reason.
Have you cried about this? Has this been painful to you emotionally? What's been your reaction to it?
It's been painful inside, but I haven't really showed any emotion. I don't really cry that much.
Do you think that it's bad to cry, or that it's a weakness, or that it's somehow wrong to cry?
No, I don't think it's wrong to cry.
But you seem to fight it pretty hard. Have you been seeing anyone about this at all? Have you been in gotten any kind of help with this, with your feelings or anything?
Yeah, I used to go to counseling.
Was that helpful?
It was.
How do you think she's doing with all this?
I think she pretty much stays busy with academics and sports, and that kind of occupies her mind.
We're going to take a break here, and up next we're going to find out why Sarah's dad sleeps with a loaded pistol every night, and I'm going to ask him where he does it. We'll be right back.
Tomorrow on an all-new Dr. Phil.
I miscarried my baby. I don't believe that she was pregnant.
She thinks her daughter is a drama queen.
I want her to stop feeling like she needs to lie about everything.
She was pregnant.
That's tomorrow.
Closed captioning provided by 2 years ago, Sarah walked into her home and found herself in the middle of an unimaginable nightmare. Her mother and brother and a family friend were brutally murdered. Sarah was held captive on a bed of leaves by a killer who had a bizarre obsession for trees.
When I had first brought Sarah home, she was very fearful that somebody was going to hurt her. She thought there was more than just Matthew involved, and she was scared that they were going to come after her and kill her. I enrolled Sarah in counseling the day after I'd brought her home.
I didn't go back to school for 4 months. The kids were mean. They would tease me about being raped in leaves.
Sarah still has nightmares, not as frequent, but every now and then she'll have a nightmare where I'll have to physically go and wake her up.
I have a dog named Elsa. She used to be on the canine team that was searching for my mom and my brother.
My dog always sleeps with me every night, and if anybody were to come in our house, she'd attack them.
I don't sleep in my bedroom in my bed anymore. I sleep in my recliner with a loaded gun. And the reason why I do that is so I can protect my family. I have this chair positioned where I can see both doors in my house. When I found out how my son was murdered, it shook me to the core of who I am.
The only times I really cried is when they first died and the funeral. I try to let it not get to me. I get detached from it.
I tell Sarah that there's one of two ways that she can handle this. She can let this destroy her life and ruin her, and which is exactly what Matthew Hoffman wants. Or she can use it as motivation and live life the way she wants to live it.
You sleep with a gun every night.
That's correct. I feel that I can best protect my family from my living room in my recliner with my loaded gun.
Mm-hmm. Do you sleep?
Not very much, a couple hours.
Kind of in and out?
Yeah.
How do you sleep at night?
I have nightmares, but I sleep.
What do you see in your nightmares?
People chasing me, killing me, burning me.
How long has it been since you've seen anyone professionally? Therapist, counselor?
Probably about 6 months, maybe. About 6 to 8 months, yeah.
The two of you have written about this, and this can be very helpful to do this in a sense. The book is The Girl in the Leaves, and it's by Sarah and Larry, and I've studied this